So we're basically checking in on all these different communities and the people we've kind of befriended in it. And we're just sort of like, how long can you sustain these things? You know, how long can it go on, especially in the bear market? So it's really interesting. You know,
So you're in communication with these
communities?
communities?
Yeah. And then we like talk to like, you know, economists or sociologists or anthropologists and say, look, you know, this is a thing. This is a phenomenon. These things are happening. And I don't think crypto communities are going away anywhere. And I actually think they have a certain amount of value, because if you look at like what the SHIB army can do, if they want to get behind something.
Yeah. Welcome to the Boardman Podcast. Today we have Brian, who is a journalist for Yahoo Finance and host of the Crypto Mile.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Coming.
Yeah, quite a formal thing.
It's nice and formal. Yeah. Formal guy. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a formal guy.
Yeah, this is the way we do it.
He's wearing a shirt, you know.
Yeah. Just bringing a bit of formality to the proceedings here. You know?
Yeah.
Seen the show, thought it could be a bit more formal. That's why I wore the shirt.
And we got another guest.
Yeah.
I got the memo as well.
Did you? Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
The shirt. Yeah.
I took the blazer off just so I could be a hybrid
Yeah.
of
That's
somewhere
My
between
blazer's over
formal
there.
and non-formal.
They're nice, colourful collars you got there, right?
Really? You know, a bit Paul Smith.
Ali, I wonder how long you could have stayed quiet for before people would have been like, why is that guy in the middle not talking?
Could have sat here as a minder.
Just
Yes, share the mic because
Yeah.
we'll...
I'll put it here.
Yeah,
just
thank you.
staring at
Anyone,
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you,
I'll go between
you're like
you.
a lawyer,
introduce
yeah?
yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ali. Nice to meet you. What's your name and where'd you come from? All we need is Cilla Black. So I'm Ali. I'm founder of a company called British Pearl, and I'm in the fintech area. And I've been in financial services for coming up to 25 years. So when I heard you were coming on, I got quite excited.
That's it.
People do. I don't understand it.
I'm not a crypto expert, but I find the area fascinating.
Shall I tell you how I met Brian? So my business partner was in a car, and he saw Brian and he overheard Brian talking, and Brian was talking about crypto. So my friend basically just accosted you, didn't he?
He says, don't let that guy leave the shop.
Yeah.
And the optician was like, you're not allowed to leave. There's a guy called Daniel coming down.
Yeah.
Specsavers?
No, it was just I forget what the place is called. It's just a private optician somewhere in London that takes Bitcoin.
Well,
Really?
And then Daniel heard about it.
Yeah.
And it is Daniel, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
it. And then Daniel was on the phone with the guy, the optician, and he was just basically, don't let that guy leave the shop. And then he came down, and then I ended up driving across town and then chatting on the phone to James.
So you were there because the shop takes Bitcoin?
Yeah, I was doing a documentary about how people can use Bitcoin in London, you know, that. And it was actually quite difficult to actually spend Bitcoin. I basically did 1 week only spending Bitcoin in London.
Is it true that there's loads of cash machines that will accept Bitcoin and take it? Like you can actually go to a cash machine in London and go, yeah, I'm gonna
on the internet, but then when you go there, it's not. It's just not
that
there.
easy. Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not like the internet would say, okay, this shop takes Bitcoin. This, you know, this ATM. There's an ATM here, there, and everywhere. And you go to the place and it's not there, or the shop doesn't take Bitcoin anymore. So I had to sort of do a kind of not use the internet and like phone like different people within the crypto community, you know, and just say, guys, help me out here. And that's when I heard about the optician, and then I heard about like the pizza parlor. I heard about the crypto cabbie, who basically took me around London on those days.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I think
he's a big Bitcoin maximalist.
Right. I think that's such a good way for the current state of like the Bitcoin market is like, you know, everyone's saying it works, and then actually the technology behind it is like, well, it needs to be made easy and it needs to be made, you know, efficient to actually work. And when you get there, it doesn't.
That's it. Its ultimate test is, does it work on the ground?
Yeah.
And then when you go to find out, it actually didn't really work that well, because the transactions to actually settle them took ages to, you know, so basically I went in, got an eye appointment, paid for it with Bitcoin, and then it took about 24 minutes or something like that for that to come through. It was all a bit, you know, that's not good on a scale.
Nobody's gonna
wait around for 24 minutes, you know, so that like, you know, has settled.
But with like Lightning Network and all these other things, it can all be sped up, right?
With Lightning Network. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think we can use Lightning Network in the UK.
Right.
So I was using...
What's Lightning Network?
It's just like a sort of just think of it as like another way to speed up Bitcoin processing, because it takes too long, obviously, just to make
it was because on the base layer, the main net of Bitcoin, I think there's only so many blocks can be validated per second, and I was using Revolut, and it was just really slow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then if you use the Lightning Network, it's they do the transactions, and it's done really fast on a centralized system, and then it's kind of like put back into the blockchain later. I think that's how it works.
Yeah. So Brian, I know we haven't got hours. I'd love to chat to you for hours, but what have you learned really from your time at Yahoo Finance in terms of most people now? I mean, is it okay to say who you interviewed today? Can I mention that?
Oh yeah, it was Ben Armstrong.
Yeah, Bitboy Crypto.
Yes.
What obviously I used to watch him quite religiously, and he would always put a very positive spin on everything. I like to be a bit more of like a realist. What are your thoughts now with crypto and NFTs? Do you think they're going to come back? What are you seeing? Because you've got a really good view of everything that's going on.
Yeah, like I've talked to everybody, but actually when I talked to Ben today, Bitboy Crypto, Crypto Bitboy. Yeah. When I talked to Ben today, he was very realistic. He said, look, if you haven't hedged into crypto now, or if you didn't do it, like say 2 years ago or a year ago, there's no point in doing it now.
What, in crypto or in other asset classes?
Well, basically into crypto.
Okay.
From say your pounds plummeting in value, and you're thinking to yourself, God, I need to hedge into Bitcoin. But basically, if you didn't do it a year ago or 2 years ago, there's no point in doing it now, because obviously Bitcoin is kind of correlating with the stock market. Yeah. It's going to go down too.
Yeah.
So the big gains were to be made 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Of course, that's obviously.
So the general consensus is going in line with the stock market.
He wouldn't say that though. He says Bitcoin basically forms its own sort of pattern.
Yeah.
But I think that it's been correlating with the Nasdaq for many years.
Yeah.
But then,
Same.
if you look at it from say the early 2011, 2012, it wasn't. But then as it started to go into mass adoption, it just started correlating with stocks.
Yeah.
I think that's to do with cheap money and just going about disposable income, maybe retail bailing into stocks, bailing into Bitcoin, taking it out of stocks, risk on, risk off sort of attitudes. And Bitcoin seems to be correlating.
Yeah, I also think if you think of crypto as an asset class, right, which it is, like gold or property or anything else, when money's being pumped into the economy, assets go up, right? It's that simple, because there's more money. It's like the most I'm not very good at economics, but it's the most simplest thing that I've learned. So it makes sense when, QE stops or money printing slowed down, that crypto will go down as well.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I suppose everybody sort of thinks, okay, QE stops, inflation supposedly is going to, it's going to calm inflation down. And then, Bitcoin's probably not going to react well to that situation.
Yeah.
If the UN have just said that, pleaded with Jerome Powell from the Federal Reserve to basically stop hiking interest rates up, because it's going to lead to recessions around the world. But I think I think he'll be stubbornly just go and just try and strengthen the dollar against all other currencies.
Right.
And I think that isn't a great formula for Bitcoin.
Right.
Because if you've got a strong dollar, I was looking at, like, I'm not like an expert either, but if you look at 10-year US yields, they'll start to come down a little bit. So the dollar is actually, people are feel more secure about it in the long term. And that's bad for Bitcoin as well. Because, if you've got a bit of money, would you buy US treasuries or would you put it into Bitcoin now? Like, say, for instance, if I give everybody here, if I give everybody here, like, I don't have about 10 grand each, are you going to put it into Bitcoin or would you put it into US treasuries? If you only had those two choices, what would you do now?
Me, I mean, not advice, but I would do Bitcoin, just because the rate of, the rate of increase that it could go up exponentially would be treasury. So I'm a gambler.
No, you're right. Okay.
So it depends on your personal circumstances, right? Where you put the money. But whether Bitcoin goes up isn't just linked to QE, which is a very good point. That money's got to go somewhere. It's also linked to adoption, which is what the conversation that you started with, right?
Right, that's true.
How prepared are people to take?
That's the white elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking all these technical points, but really Bitcoin was created by Satoshi to be used, and I suppose the Lightning Network's doing really well. I was in El Salvador just before the Bitcoin law was made legal tender, and there was no appetite for Bitcoin in San Salvador. Sorry,
Okay,
guys.
wow.
But when I went down to Bitcoin Beach in El Zonte, it was amazing. Like, they'd been using Bitcoin there for, I don't think it was about like maybe a year. It was like a little sort of a bubble of Bitcoin use, and I was getting taxis up and down the coast, paying with Bitcoin. Local shop, Fanta. Yeah, I was expecting, like, I'm going to get a soft drink here. The guy's obviously not going to want to take sats for this, like a small amount of Bitcoin. But he's like, surely, yeah, give me some Bitcoin for it. And I was like, right, okay.
And if you went to Venezuela, it'd be a different story, wouldn't it?
Yeah, okay, with the inflation of the Venezuelan currency. Well, you see, this is I sort of chatting to different people about crypto and stuff like that, and really, in the end of the day, it's only going to reach that mass adoption if it's necessary to use it. Apart from that, it's just speculating on a risk asset. But if it's necessary to use it, it will have mass.
It's all to do with hype as well. I mean, I was in Greece recently in Athens, and it's weird because the economy in Greece at the moment has taken a hit over the last couple of years. But I saw quite a few shops, Bitcoin shops and crypto shops, and I was quite surprised. Like, they were just set up for trading or exchanging in cryptocurrency, and I thought, that's crazy. It's a question about the hype as well. Like, is the hype still there? Is the hype? Because we've done quite a few things together on different things and going to different events and doing stuff, and we've been to Cannes and seen, and when the hype is there, I feel it, I get behind it. I'm like, oh, this is great, it's going to come back, or it's going to blow up, or whatever it may be, and it's and then it dips, and it's like, it levels out, and I think it's a question of whether the hype, and people still talk. If people still talk about it enough, it will fly back up. Do you think the hype is still there?
Does the hype have like a battery life? Do people get exhausted? Just like, because I think
it does. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, of course.
I think this particular bear market that we're in at the moment, I think a lot of people that were in it for retail, retail investors, maybe they're just exhausted with all that hype now. And if we do have another bull market, are they going to still come back in the same force? I don't know. Or is this next bull market going to be brought on by institutions and stuff like that?
Yeah, the thing is, it's so hard because it's easy to manipulate. I've heard there's 50 people that manipulate Bitcoin. There's so many technicalities, right?
Yeah.
It's whether you follow BitBoy, who goes by his graph, or this guy who goes by his historical graph, and that blockchain backer, he's really good. Everyone seems to really like him. But the reality is, will it get mass adoption? And there's so many things, like Ali was saying, Gartner used to do this really cool thing about 10 years ago called, it was called the Magic Quadrant Hype Cycle. And they would work on hype cycles. So you have like mass hysteria, and then it kind of goes back there. Really interesting. You spend a fortune with Gartner, and they would work out where the hype cycle was going, right? So the one thing that I can be sure of is I don't know the top and don't know the bottom. Yeah. When I'm selling or buying NFTs or crypto, I've never been able to time it. I'm terrible at timing it.
Yeah.
So do you believe in it long term? Do you believe in the utility of it? Obviously, you've got all these problems. Hopefully, we can chat about what's just happened with Kim Kardashian and the SEC and all this sort of stuff. But do you believe long term that there's a place for crypto? Because all this, there's loads of people who are making payment points where you can use credit cards and pay with Bitcoin, right? So, do I think it's a good store of value? And I think the question we were talking about, I think it might have been Spencer, we were talking to somebody, and they said, how many coders are coding in, Solidity or Haskell?
Right.
I think that's a really good question, right? Because if I
you can go back and see, you can see currently the amount of developers that's working in crypto.
Yeah.
And there's still loads. It's
And
going up and up and up.
Yeah.
So if the fact that the background, if people are still working on it and it's growing.
So if you had kids now, right? If you had kids now and you were going to get them into, become a lawyer or become a coder, I would ask them to code like Solidity for Ethereum. Yeah. And on GitHub, if you look at the amount of Solidity coders, they're charging a fortune to build smart contracts. So I would sort of say, okay, if those numbers are going up and the next generation of building smart contracts to build this really cool technology, to me, that would say, all right, probably going to come back.
Yeah, well, I never thought about that before. That's a really good metric to use for forecasting. If there's a lot of coders in there, a lot of developers that are using Ethereum, well, it's a little bit like, remember, was it the Sega Dreamcast came out before the Nintendo whatever it was? And the Dreamcast was better at all sorts of stuff, but it didn't have all the developers that were making the games for it.
Right.
So it couldn't reach mass adoption, but instead, I think it was the Nintendo whatever done far better, and then Sega folded. I think that was their last console. And you're right, if there's a lot of developers that are using Solidity and like putting it through, and like, you know, you've got a huge amount of interest, and basically people are versed in that programming language, then that's the one that's going to reach mass adoption rather than a rival.
I think that happened with HD and DVD as well. The battle between HD and DVD. I think at the time they just went, well, just look how many people are working on DVD rather than the HD.
Yeah.
I think it was a HD.
Blu-ray.
No, it wasn't. It was like the red HD. I know people forget about it. It was like a red HD thing versus Blu-ray. I think.
Yeah.
And you just look at how many people behind the scenes are working on it or being employed to do it, and it's like you can kind of follow that trend. Sorry, I was gonna.
The amount of developers are using Solidity is not necessarily an indicator of how successful the currency may be. It may be an indicator of how successful distributed ledger technologies will be.
So this is why you're on. This is why you're here.
Because
bit of controversy.
What's interesting is that I think what we've learned from Bitcoin is people's willingness to put their money into another currency. It's not quite a currency because it doesn't tick all the boxes yet. Store of value, being able to transact quickly, but it's certainly people are trying to get there. But what cryptocurrency has done is demonstrated the power of the distributed ledger technology, and DLTs are being used by very large companies and now some of the big banks. And, you know, smart contract coding has many other applications. It's not just to deliver a currency token across the network. It's also, for example, it can be used in the securities markets, which are huge. And institutions such as Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Fidelity, they've got areas totally dedicated to digital assets and having a look at this. And the real benefits of that area are reduction of risk and reduction of costs.
Yeah, efficiencies.
Yeah, the efficiencies that can be gained from using distributed ledger technologies in securities markets, which are valued in the trillions.
That's definitely interesting. That's why I wrote a story at the beginning of the week about quant, and you know, the quant network. And basically,
what's that?
It's like it's not a blockchain, but it's like kind of the glue that's meant to like allow all these blockchains to communicate with each other. And the team behind it, and the head of the quant network, I forget his name now, but anyway, he's worked with like PricewaterhouseCoopers, HSBC, and lots of big banks. And they say that is the technology that will be the engineering behind central bank digital currencies, you know, CBDCs. So, and the price has been hiking all week. I do not know why, but if you look at quant, is one of those ones where it's kind of like, it's not a blockchain. I don't even know why it's a token.
I think they're an interoperability layer.
Interoperability layer, between
absolutely.
loads of different blockchains. But I don't even know why they need a token, because they had an ICO, they tokenized it and stuff like that. But it's basically a technology for distributed ledger technology, and how all these different systems, private blockchains, can speak to each other. And I think, you know, that's very interesting. Maybe it's like an operating system.
What's the real world application, though? That's the thing that matters the most.
Yeah, I think could it be that you need an overall operating system below all the blockchains that allow the blockchains to speak to each other?
Or it could be a piece of technology that will enable Web3 to really take hold.
Yeah.
That could be the thinking behind it. Because why would I want one DLT? Why would I want one DLT speaking to another DLT? What is the real benefit?
Yeah. But I think if you want to automate all these different things, like you mentioned, like digital assets, maybe you're automating commodities or something, like synthetic commodities or something. That's been, you know, about for a while. And you want to automate trade and link it to the Internet of Things and stuff like that. Well, these different systems might be set up on different blockchains, different DLTs. So you probably want them at some stage to be able to speak to each other. I think, I'm not an expert, but maybe that's what that quant network is trying to do.
One point I think that we need to, that I'd like us to leave this podcast remembering, is that for me, you know, we can talk about whether there's a future for Bitcoin, whether there's a future for Ethereum. For me, the evidence is that there is definitely a future for digital currency. And that to me is the most interesting thing, because central banks have already said that these are projects that are going to go ahead. Our last Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has tasked, I think, either the Mint or one of the government departments on investigating the deployment of a UK digital currency.
They've already done it with their Tezos.
Have they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I'm a bit behind on that news.
No,
but,
just a like a proof of concept.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. And then obviously there's the digital yuan, the Chinese. I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly. The Chinese currency.
Yeah.
And the US are working on it as well. And the benefits for central banks are, there's many operational benefits, and there's lots of oversight and governance benefits for them on putting controls in where that currency.
But does that
can
mean
be
it's just
spent.
going to be controlled by, like, there's going to be a digital currency, but it's going to be controlled by the government? So what?
Well,
what's
currency is
what's the
currently,
difference?
the currency is
opposite of
currently controlled by
Yeah,
government.
it's the opposite of Bitcoin, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, what is the
What's the
difference?
point? Yeah.
Because commercial banks already can digitally enter in new loans that they give out to people. You know, just make up the figures and stuff like that.
And it's, we got to.
Well, they need 9% backed, right? So I think so. For every pound you borrow from a bank, they need about 9 pence in the UK to have that money back, whether it's gold or whatever it is, right?
It's still fractional reserve.
Yeah,
But the fraction keeps on
It's called,
Reducing,
it's called reserve
Yeah.
banking.
Fractional, but fractional.
And they'll need to have, I'm not sure what the specific name is, but that 9% may be regulatory capital that they have to hold behind.
Yeah.
So it's
But
their base,
what's
it's the
the
base
point?
capital.
So there's something they did a proof of concept for something called Britcoin, right? Not Bitcoin, for like a British central bank currency, right? So the whole idea is, if you imagine about like the British pound, there's nothing really you can do with it apart from spend it, right? If the government were to release let's call it a British pound, but was a crypto British pound, not only, okay, you can have all the conspiratorial sides, which may not even be conspiratorial, how you can just create loads of them, right, from thin air. But if you think about the benefits of crypto, how it's electric, right, how it's digital, and all these little things you can add on, whether it's all the things you know about crypto, let's say NFTs, right? That's only because of crypto. So let's say you've got your own Bitcoin that Rishi Sunak's given you, and he can create NFTs, or you can create NFTs.
Yeah.
Now, I completely agree with Brian. I can't see the future, but I am against it, because the whole point of Bitcoin is that it's decentralized and there's no centralized ownership or power that are controlling it. So, you know, it might be an easy sell for the government to say, okay, here's the Bitcoin, and you've got all these cool technologies you can add. It's like second layer, like an NFT is a second order effect of crypto. What a third, fourth, fifth, sixth order effect that we can't even see.
Well, it's scary though.
It's scary. That's the point.
Programmable money.
Yeah.
So you will have to spend your money within a given time frame.
Yeah.
And location-based money, you can only spend your money in these locations on these products.
Yeah, if you watch certain Netflix things, if you don't watch this, and they're doing it in China, it's a whole credit system score, which would be a social system score, which is obviously what, you know, a lot of people are worried about.
I just look at,
Social
like,
credits,
you know, in my lifetime, and I'm obviously, you know, a lot younger than all of you.
Shut up. Jesus. I think it's time I went.
He brings this up every time.
No,
it's not.
But I just look
it's
at,
the
like,
Botox you've had. That's what it is, mate.
I just look at, like, when I was a kid, it was always no card, only cash. All right, I'm Welsh, so that might be slightly different, and there might be a little bit of, you know, weirdness going on there. And now in London, it's only card, no cash, and that's like, look at that change when you actually think of that.
Well, that change was driven
and you all
by,
know that as well. Like,
that change was driven by the concern of handling money during the COVID period.
Yeah,
was it though?
Was it though? I don't know.
But you could say like what? I think
No, it was
90%
before
of
that,
notes have like cocaine on them, right? So you could make.
How did you know that, James?
I don't know. It's just something I read. And they said like no, or 100% of, because you know when you watch
I think it was true. I think Gordon Ramsay did that.
If you watch-
he literally did like. He did something where they looked at all the notes that was coming into his restaurant. He said every single one of them has got.
Yeah, so if you look at the
as has
That's why
Thames
they're not
Water.
producing. That's why they're not producing notes with Prince Charles on it, because there's enough Charlie on the rest of the notes.
Bloody hell, Jay says nothing. Jay's been quiet for 30 minutes. As soon as you mention drugs, he's like, the history of cocaine.
Just waiting for it. Yeah, that's good.
No, but you know that I don't know if I agree
This
with that.
is a serious podcast.
I think it's happened
Yeah.
before. I think, you know, agree. COVID did have an effect on, like, we don't take, you know.
I think it was an
cash.
excuse.
Yeah, but it was part of a, like, we were
It was
already
just-
heading in
it
that
just-
direction.
absolutely, and it
Accelerated,
accelerated the whole process. And if you're a business owner, you actually, on the one hand, you want to drive transactions through to debit card only from a protecting your business point of view in terms cash can be stolen quite easily. Criminal staff. I mean, I don't think most people are good, but if you're in a pub and how easy is it to track whether your bar staff are pocketing the money? So, but on the other hand, you're paying 3% or 2% away to the merchant service provider, payment processor. You don't want that. So it's definitely a natural progression, right? Yeah. And digital currencies that are decentralized versus digital currencies that are produced by governments, they're not mutually exclusive. Governments should be always looking to improve their processes. So the fact that the UK or the US might be issuing a digital currency shouldn't mean that the future of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies are threatened.
But on that, right? For example, when I used to try and buy Coinbase, USD or whatever, Tether or whatever it is, I'd use my NatWest card, and it got harder and harder and harder. And I'd phone NatWest, and I'd go into NatWest, and they said, "Look, I know it's a bank, but they would say, look, we don't want." And some banks are owned by the government. We don't want you to be able to buy crypto on your card. Yeah. So I do think that where you say it's sort of not mutually exclusive, I do think there is a big issue between having, I think there'll be a competition between the government CBDCs and what you would call cryptocurrencies.
There absolutely will be. Because if a government has a couple of tools to adjust the economy, fiscal policy and monetary policy, if they don't have control over the currency that's being spent in their country, they can't effectively implement monetary policy.
The nation state is defying. Basically, you don't have the government can't function. But I think the big competition might actually be between the CBDCs and stablecoins, USDC, USDT. Yeah. And I don't actually I think the US are holding back and letting all the other countries do their CBDC experiments. And I think that the US might actually go and say, you know what, USDC is doing well. Everybody around the world's using it. Let's just back it. And
the moment they back it,
if it's heavily regulated by the in the US, and it's like every USD dollar is backed by a dollar in their reserves, then why not use that?
So, how much do you know about the people that issue USDC? Which institutions issue them?
Coinbase.
I think it's Circle, isn't it? In issue USDC, and then I don't know the reserves, but I think the reserves are
the actual issuance, and this isn't an area I'm an expert in.
10%, right?
But the actual issuance of USD of these stable coins is a cost. So you can't have that facility if money's not being made elsewhere.
All right. Okay.
So if let's say it is current Coinbase that's issuing USDT, which is the
USDC,
USDC. Then if the rest of their business died, they couldn't continue issuing USDC.
Right. Is the cost the backing it with the reserve dollars?
The cost is operational cost. It's the technical cost. It's it's everything that goes around managing a stable coin. It itself is not profitable. So whoever's involved in that area at the moment must be making money elsewhere in order to support that. And the only reason why that exists actually is to get people into cryptocurrency.
That's interesting. I never thought of that parameter actually from the fact that they have to cover their own costs. Yeah,
because you're getting one for one. You're getting $1 for one USDT or one USDT.
So think about all the electricity that's used, all the staff that are involved in doing that. How do they cover those costs?
They do the same as the bank with a fractional ownership, right? Fractional reserve, sorry.
Yeah, and they're not covered by tax dollars. So they're performing that function. They haven't got government funding to do it.
Yeah. I think these decentralized exchanges, though, will, and they already are, some of the decentralized exchanges are doing more than Coinbase and the centralized exchanges, and they've got no one running them. The code just runs out there on the internet. You can go and copy the code, fork it, create another decentralized exchange, and they're doing crazy volumes.
Crazy, and it's a real threat to the centralized exchanges. Yeah, and that's where the Coinbase share price is just it's tanking, because really when everybody gets into crypto, the entry drug is maybe you go on Coinbase. But it's not long before you're off Coinbase and you're on to Uniswap or something else. Yeah, and that's where the action's happening.
SEC's after Uniswap though now. But he's based
in California.
Darren begins with H, isn't the guy who set up Uniswap? They were doing, I think, 8 billion a day or something trading last year, and SEC have gone for them, but they're based in New York.
Okay.
which seemed a bit, crazy to me to base the company in the US. Yeah. So I don't know what's happening with them. But then you can just fork that decentralized exchange, copy the code, run it on the internet, and then you've got your own decentralized exchange, and you can create he created like a third of the tokens for himself.
This episode of the Boardman podcast is sponsored by moviecoin.com, the place to go to get your movie funded by crypto and NFTs. Or if you'd like to actually invest in a film or a movie using crypto or fiat currency, please go to www.moviecoin.com and you'll receive profit shares of the movies you invest in.
I love Bittylicious. I've been using that since the beginning.
Oh, is Bittylicious still going?
Yeah. little secret there.
Well, decentralized exchange.
It's Bittylicious.
It's a central exchange. Yeah, it was been gone for years.
I shouldn't have told you that.
Is it still up?
You told me about that.
Yeah. I have a quite an interesting story on crypto. I kicked myself. I was living with a friend, right? It was a bunch of us actually in 2011. I'll tell it very quickly. 2011, 2012. In a weird care home in London, which
You're going to tell us you've got coin on the hard drive somewhere.
Honestly,
You're actually a billionaire.
He wishes.
So many times.
We're all broke,
opportunity
and
missed.
this, my mate used to ride to work because he couldn't even afford to get the train, and he had an IT job, and he kept banging on my door probably once a week for a good period of time. We were in this property management company, so we didn't pay any bills.
Oh yeah,
it was a setup. It was a cheap way to live in London. Trying to become an actor or make films. He banged on my door and said, "Matt, come on, we're not paying bills. I've got all these computers upstairs. I'm mining Bitcoin. Just come and get involved with me." Oh, mate, go away. I'm with a girl or whatever. So I'm fine. He started mining Bitcoins in 2012 for free. Upstairs in a care home, and he's retired, lives in Australia now. And I remember him coming back in 2017, and then I got into it, and he showed me how to do it, and he was the one that said, buy from Bittylicious, and I've done it, been doing it ever since. And it's just a story that it's one of those stories where you kick yourself for not getting involved. And everyone's got that hard drive story where they've got some on a hard drive, and it's just like,
so a woman cost you money. But that's what I heard.
Not the first time.
it just
You were distracted.
For me, it was just I went upstairs and I saw his setup. He had this small room, and it was polluted with all these. He had computer after computer. The big chunky desktop computers. Computer after computer after computer after computer.
The mining difficulty level back then was so low.
Yeah. It was all CPUs then it moved to GPUs.
CPUs first. Then
all
GPUs.
You needed was enormous amounts of electricity because that was the cost really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember we moved out, and the company said, "Guys, what the hell have you been doing?" And we're like, "What?" And if the bill was £300 for 1 month, it went to £2,000, and I'm pretty sure no one ever paid it because it was just just get out, because he was just running all these computers for and he did it for ages, and I've just still kicked myfe because I just should have gone.
Is he enjoying himself in Australia now?
He's retired, isn't he? He's 30, he's
Gone crazy with all the money.
No, do you know what? He's done it very well, and one of the things he explained to me was, obviously it's not really good advice to give people to get into crypto now because it's still a bit crazy, but he just did it well. He put in one, he moved it around, he watched the market. As soon as he made money, he bought tangible assets with it. He was buying really good things like gold and all this kind of stuff.
I'd hang out with this guy a bit more. He seems really sensible.
Yeah.
Do you know what? He's the most normal guy in the world, and I think he just jumped on it, and he's just one of those guys that just went,
this is something.
I'm just going to take a sort of a jump and see what happens.
And I think it was 2012 or 2013. My dad's a big fan of Max Kaiser, so I'm in the house one night, and he's watching Max Kaiser on RT, and he says, "I think you should buy that Bitcoin stuff." I was like, "What's this?" He goes, "Watch this." So me and a friend spent a night putting money from our bank accounts to OKPay in Cyprus, and from OKPay to MTGOX, and we're buying Bitcoin one night for about £38 a Bitcoin. He bought load. Not a load. I bought about 5. He bought about more than that.
Are you going to tell us you own Yahoo?
Wait a second. Yeah. But then the next year, the MTGOX exchange, obviously there was the big hack. And nobody's ever seen any of their Bitcoin, and it's still it gets kicked down the lane. It's every last month. The MTGOX 200,000 odd Bitcoin's going to be released. No, it's not. Right, it's going to be released. No, it's not. So that's my experience.
What's the really
But the thing is that I didn't do, and my friend didn't do. We left it on an exchange.
Right.
That was the problem back then.
It was a really good documentary. It was one of the last things I saw on Netflix, and it was about a Canadian cryptocurrency.
Oh
And
yeah,
he
the
was-
crypto king.
the crypto king. And he was
Hadn't
storing-
seen that,
he
yeah.
was storing it all, and it just disappeared. I think it was actually billions, but I'll say millions because I don't know the exact figure. And they just like complete. And he died. I think got killed. Spoiler alert. But
That's the thing. Like, that's it. And that actually scared me after that from investing in crypto. So that's put me off. And then I missed all these different, like, I missed 2017. I missed, the build up to that because I was just like,
well,
oh,
I
it's
just
a scam.
did it and didn't touch it. That's the thing. I didn't care. I actually probably didn't look at it for about 2-3 years. Literally, I did a little bit. I wanted him to show me how to do it. So when he came back, I just attacked him and said, "Show me how to do it."
And was that in 2017?
Yeah.
That was a good time.
It was a good time, yeah,
it was
yeah.
sort of come up. Yeah.
Ethereum time. But if like the last thing sort of on the utility of it, like if you think, I remember reading Russell Brand's book and how he said, if you start a business, instead of the CEO having everything, give like 25% to the staff, and have it as a more fair business. That's a really, with Companies House, to assign shares to people, that's really difficult. And, a new member of staff comes in as a PA, to give them like 0.001% is hard. But if you base it on a cryptocurrency, your own currency, like a layer 2 currency, and everybody comes in and based on the amount of work they do, you can digitally assign them tokens. I think it's a really, really good futuristic way of like running businesses.
Right.
But the one thing I would say, just on what we were speaking about before, if it's going to go up or down, it's impossible to know, right? For me anyway. A lot of people say, okay, well, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, these guys, they don't want it to work. They've made it very clear that they said that they would short Bitcoin.
I think it's going to fly up. Just so you know, I'm going to say that on
but
camera.
what
I think it's going to fly up in the next couple of months.
But the only person that I really listen to, who I'm like love and respect, and I love,
Hawkins? Like me?
yeah, Matt Hawkins and Elon Musk, and he says, because he's like a realist, right? And he spends a lot of time. He seems to have somehow a deep understanding of all these different areas, and he says, do you know what? I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to be what everybody says, this thing that's just everybody's going to transact on Bitcoin forever and there's going to be no more, fiat currency. He says it's going to be good. There's going to be real use cases, but that's it. So that's kind of like a normal realist approach to take. Do you know what I mean?
It'll find its space, basically. And it is, and it's needed. But interesting what you just said before that. Sounds like a DAO, sounds like a decentralized autonomous organization, and that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
If you've got like a situation where you've got a company, everybody's on a DAO, everybody basically gets governance tokens within that company, and then that has like
voting rights,
value, voting rights and stuff like that. It's interesting how that would work.
There's a better way of doing it now. There's share options, and the UK government supports it. There's a system called EMI, Enterprise Management Incentive Scheme. And it's a tax-efficient way of you giving your employees shares in an existing legal system.
But the thing is, because when it's a DAO or a decentralized autonomous organization, you would have voting rights even on the legal contracts, and you'd say, okay, this is an unfair part of the legal contract, and you can make things a lot fair because it's all on the ledger for everybody to see, rather than I could easily con Jay into working for the company and say, Jay, read this 100-page legal document and get him on some clauses. So I do think the fact that it's autonomous.
But in the environment that you've described, that's probably in a smart contract way has also got its own rules, right? If you hired an employee and suddenly you discovered that individual was giving all your IP rights to a competitor, would you want them to have voting rights in your company? So that, good behavior has to be rewarded, bad behavior has to be dealt with. So whether it's on a share option scheme that's, traditional legal contract, or somehow on the DAO.
Yeah, but if you think about a startup, an entrepreneurial business, right, they're not going to have the skill set to find a legal company, to spend all the legal fees. And you could literally just get this all set up and running now as a template. Yeah. I think there's room for, do you know what I think? What I think we're all sort of agreeing, the one thing we're all agreeing with, there's a place for all of this. There's a place for
absolutely
EMI, is it?
Yeah, EMI.
Yeah. There's a place for a DAO. There's a place for, Bitcoin. There's a place for GBP. There's a place for... Okay, so what I was going to ask a couple of specific points as well. The Kim Kardashian thing, does that mean they're coming for everybody now, the SEC?
Well, wait there, let's explain what's happened, just for people.
All right, so Brian should explain.
So Kim Kardashian, I think last year, was basically putting paid promotions of a cryptocurrency called Ethereum Max up on her Instagram, and basically saying, "Oh guys, look at this cryptocurrency. It's called Ethereum Max. It looks like a good one." You know?
Promotion.
But she wasn't.
So she was getting paid by the company,
but she
to
wasn't
promote it on her Instagram.
But she wasn't disclosing. The problem is she wasn't disclosing that she had got paid $250,000 to put up this Instagram post, and that was the problem. Like if she's just going to be in an advertisement for a cryptocurrency, that's fine. Be in an advertisement, a little bit like Matt Damon, but that was a little bit,
But surely she's not going to. I mean, surely that's common sense that if Kim Kardashian is posting something about cryptocurrency, someone's paying her to post
but
that.
part of the SEC, so to come under a security, there's a certain number of points, right? Took me ages to get my head around, right? And one of them is, if I say this crypto is going to go up and I own this crypto, I go against SEC rules.
Right.
And
but didn't Elon Musk do that with Dogecoin?
Is
on
it Dodge or
Twitter?
Doge?
Oh, see?
But
I've just made you a whole thing.
I think he did.
Yeah, but
did
he went on Twitter and said, all by Dogecoin now is going crazy. And he had loads of it.
But did he own it though?
No, he didn't own it, but he had loads of it.
Yeah, but you can do that.
She doesn't own the company,
There's
does
no
she?
conflict of interest there.
Well, if put it this way, right? If you're Elon Musk or you're Kim Kardashian and you say, go and buy this, and I've got loads of it, and people buy loads of it, what happens to me?
I think it's more than just saying. I think it's more than the issue that you've highlighted. I haven't looked at. I don't know the news report, but you all know that marketing securities is a regulated activity. Mm-hmm. You can't just go out and say, "Go and buy this," especially buy this stuff, especially if you're a public figure, because your audience is huge.
Yeah.
So if I turn around to James and I said, mate, I've come across this great investment, you should pile in. That's two mates talking. I haven't got a megaphone providing information to a massive audience where they think I've got credibility in a certain area. So to me, it's not just the payment.
By enterprise.
But I think most people know, even that these Instagram influencers, when they're showing products, that they know they're getting a percentage of these.
Well, didn't it all change on Instagram?
Interesting.
I think most people would know that there's a kickback. The thing for me is there are rules around financial products, and a lot of them are based on whether you're marketing a product and you're not providing the disclosures that someone who is regulated would need to provide, and you'd need to know the information, the type of information that you need to give your customers. So I think that's probably a big part of the reason why she's been.
But that changed with there was a point, I can't remember when. There was a point, it was probably about a year ago or something along those lines, where Instagram, it became, whenever you posted something, you could just post something and you could kind of secretly get paid from it and be like, hey, buy this lighter, and it's a great lighter. Now, if you post something on Instagram, you have to say it's a paid promotion. You can't do that anymore. It has to be, you have to acknowledge, if Nike are paying you, you have to acknowledge that you're being paid to post or promote that.
Why was she stupid enough to not put a tag on that screen?
Because a year ago it probably wasn't in place.
And she can't tell the difference between bras and cryptocurrency. I'm not saying she wears cryptocurrency. For her, it's just promoting another product.
Yeah, and who knows whether she did it or was one of our aides.
Absolutely.
We're putting this up. And she wants to become an attorney as well, so it's going to really affect her personally.
Well, now that we're on the Kardashians, which is a great topic, I think Kendall Jenner did something. Was it Kendall Jenner? She did something where something happened with Snapchat. I don't know how I know this, because I don't even have Snapchat. But something happened with Snapchat. They changed one of their filters or one of their settings and updated the system or whatever, has apps update. And she went online and said, it's horrible, I hate it. And
they changed it,
They just went, the whole Snapchat just went, like the shares just dropped, and they changed it back. Because the power, she had so much power, so much influence on, okay, don't use this, that. So,
well, that's like Elon Musk driving the Dogecoin. No, not driving the Dogecoin price, but driving the whole crypto market. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Basically, you could correlate the swings in the crypto market based on his tweets.
Exactly.
But luckily, those days are over. I think. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen again, because he did tweet a few times and it didn't even manage to.
I think someone must have said to him, because I think he retracted some of it. He said buy Dogecoin, or he, what he did was he made Bitcoin available to buy with Tesla.
And then he withdrew.
then he pulled it out.
That was the big.
Did he pull the whole lot out?
Yeah,
The whole half
you
billion?
can't buy. Yeah, you used to be able to buy Bitcoin. You used to be like Tesla.
No, but he bought $500 million, didn't he, of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Well, he was one of the first
sold
people with Michael Saylor.
third or 2/3 or something like that.
Yeah, he
I
sold
think there was
quite a lot of
something
it.
like that, yeah.
So-
He was the one selling the whole time.
So you might know then. So what's happening with Kim Kardashian? Is she getting in trouble, or is it just what's actually happening?
So she has made an agreement. She was charged with this, promotion of an unregistered security without disclosing that you've been paid. And now, to stop a whole long, protracted case, she's decided to settle. So she's settled for 1.3 million or something like that.
Yeah.
So she just wants to get it all over.
Who's she
and done
paying
with.
that to? The government?
SEC,
The SEC.
Securities and Exchange Commission.
But the thing is, the SEC, I think there's so many people they could target for, for shilling unregistered securities. But obviously they're going after her because it makes a big statement. It's kind of like, no more of this, folks. I'm Gary Gensler. I'm the guy that's basically going to rein in all these snake oil sellers. I'm going to try and sort it out. And the only thing that's not a security is Bitcoin, he says. Everything else is an unregistered security, which is actually a way of basically looking at a whole industry and just going, you know what, I'm just going to just press that down, suppress it, not even let it work. So I think there's a lot of politicians in the US. They're actually, secretly frustrated. Not secretly, there's politicians that are explicitly frustrated with him because he's basically trying to, you're meant to let this ecosystem flourish.
Right.
Actually, they don't want to lose dollar dominance. That's the key thing here.
Dollar dominance. I like that.
They don't want to
That's
lose
quite
dollar
nice.
dominance.
Yeah.
And they're already starting to lose dollar dominance with what's going on in Ukraine. Russia now selling their energy for rubles.
Yeah.
MBS thinking or doing the same thing. Dollar dominance is being tested.
Well,
Is this just
dollar
the US, though?
dominance goes, that's the US is kind of like, it's the US's top dog is that's it all over.
But is this just the US? Like, would Kim Kardashian, would she get in trouble for what she did
So
now if she did in the UK?
SEC is just the US.
Right,
yeah.
So we have the FCA here, right?
Yeah.
So every country has their own regulation, and that's why crypto companies would set up in the Cayman Islands and all these different areas. But they now all pretty much, Isle of Wight, all these places, they all have their own regulations.
Right.
And you have to fill in and follow all their regulations. But
And what's the main problem with the US? Why
the
is it-
SEC.
Right.
So if you come under what's called a security, and there's a number of things you can test to say that you're a security, then you can get in trouble. Basically, it's like
Security doesn't mean bouncer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Equities, sorry, I'm not trying to be
No, I know what you mean.
facetious.
Yeah.
But it can be shares or loans or equity and bonds, same thing.
Yeah.
The SEC and the FCA have been set up to regulate that market.
Right.
So if you don't fall into that market, they can't regulate you.
Yeah. On the first look,
Yeah.
it comes across a real shame because if you've got a great idea and you want to set it up, for example, like we have cryptocurrency, right? And we can't sell it in the US. We can't say to anybody in the US, buy this cryptocurrency. So,
You can't tell people to buy it.
No.
But not everyone's
they're not
as
even
honest,
allowed.
But not everyone's as honest as you. These institutions are set up to protect retail customers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
But
I
can
think-
someone
I think
buy it if
rightly
they want to
so
buy
as
it?
well,
Yeah,
because
they
we
could,
had,
but I can't say
had-
go and buy it. Yeah. They're not allowed.
well, rightly so, because we did have that whole period where all those dodgy ICOs, initial coin offerings were happening.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of those companies that were just basically getting
White paper.
Yeah, they released a white paper, had a team, all this here, development, whatever, marketing, wallet, all that sort of stuff. Get a load of money in, and then you don't hear about them anymore, and they were all kind of anonymous anyway.
But a lot of people made a lot of money
A
from
lot of
those
people
ICOs
made-
because anyone who knew about an ICO, pretty much until NFTs came along, anybody who bought in an ICO would make money. Now, Tezos, Ethereum, they were all ICOs.
Yeah.
They went crazy. But there were loads of others in tandem, and if you got in, 99% of them didn't make money as an ICO, but you would have made money if you bought the tokens.
Yeah, if you got in earlier enough and you weren't the one to sort of hold the fallen bag at the end of it all, whenever it was all ready to go.
I think there's going to be more court cases
Yeah.
in relation to ICOs.
I
I mean, where
If this started, then
the successful ones, those weren't scams. They were supporting real businesses. But those that weren't supporting real businesses, if the SEC's got bandwidth, they will go for them. You can't just do that. That's an ICO is an IPO.
It is, and
Yeah.
if you look at some of the companies that did ICOs or these like crypto entities, they did just vanish with lots of money from people, and they didn't present what they said they were going to present. Like nothing came of it and stuff like that. Like, there's no point in naming a few of them, but I did like a piece on like lots of them, just looking into, what happened those ones? And then you go on Reddit and you look and you go, right, they've vanished. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nobody knows who the personnel are behind it and stuff like that. So that is a big problem. Yeah. That's a big problem.
All right, so Brian, what other sort of insights have you had, right? I don't want to, it's so interesting to sit and talk to this for ages, but I know your time is so obviously we're going to see you tomorrow at DeFi conference.
Yeah, we're going to the DeFi conference.
And, and what other things are you sort of, because you're a journalist, right? So you're obviously going out there, finding all this information. What other sort of things are you learning, like, or trendies?
He's posting for Yahoo. He's trying to make Yahoo big.
Yeah, I want to make Yahoo rival Google and stuff like that. You know, I'm Web 2. I'm just Web 2. I think actually one of the most interesting things for me are crypto communities. You know, the
Discords.
Okay, so like crypto community, they get behind like a coin or a token, and they really rally behind it. Like, you know, you get the SHIB army, you get all these different armies and weird groups. You get the Discord group, the Telegram group, and stuff like that.
But everyone was talking about that, you know, back in Cannes in May, and it's like, community this, community that, and now it's just like,
right, okay, isn't it? It's a bit weird, isn't it? This whole word community, and it's kind of like,
if the community was that strong, then certain coins wouldn't have dropped.
Well, that's it. Like, so basically, it's a community at the beginning when the going's good, and the people that, you know, own most of the coins are like really like driving the community. And as soon as like the going gets tough, they basically drain it, and then you've got all these sort of like lonely people still in these Discord groups and Telegram groups wondering.
I'm very honest. I'm one.
Where's the community?
Where's the community that I was promised?
I had Discord and I was using it loads of different things, and I just haven't used it for ages.
Yeah, that's another weird thing, like Discord and stuff like that. And I just think it's kind of like they're really pushing this community thing, but there is actually something in it. So I wouldn't just discard crypto communities as just being a sham just for people to shill tokens to people to come in. But basically me and a friend are doing a documentary, like a feature-length documentary about crypto communities. And, you know, we've got like, we've involved loads of different people, like John Zerzan, don't know whether you know him. We've got like, economists in the US. We've got different people from different crypto communities involved in it. So we're looking at different, you know, communities, what the people do, what the people say, how, why they're in these communities. And some of them have actually stood the test of time, and they're still a community. And so it's kind of like, what is behind that? What's the psychology? Why do you want to be in this community? What is it other than coin go up, coin go down? Yeah, there must be something else in this. So we're kind of following them. We've been following them for like a number of months now. So that, I think that's really interesting.
It just feels a bit. It just feels a bit like let's say I'm referring to Tetris. It feels a bit Tetris with Discord. It's like, I remember using it thinking, this doesn't feel like we're going ahead. It just felt a bit like, you know, old style, you know, Tetris vibe, where you're like, you know, typing and it was all a bit sort of, you know, old in the way that it was operating. I don't know whether that's.
I don't know.
So what's popular about those trends? that community that is still having a following. What trends?
That's interesting, isn't it? So they probably must have something beyond, I'm just in this because I want the coin to go up in value. Yeah. And each of these communities have their own certain values, and some of the values are very strange and probably, you know, probably destructive. You know, because some of these crypto communities have like crawled out of the margins of 4chan and places like that, and but some of them are still there. So like, what is it? What is it that's keeping these people together?
Couldn't you ask the same question about the people that first adopted cryptocurrencies? I mean, why did they do it in the first place?
You could, yeah. Like, it's kind of like I'm in an exclusive community. I know about this thing, you know. And then you've got all these sort of buzzwords like, I'm in it for the tech, I'm in it for the utility and all that. And it's just kind of like,
because it's all still quite exclusive, really. But if you think of how many people actually got crypto and NFTs.
But they believe that
with the Discord thing, it's funny what you say, because a lot of people say it's clunky, right? But
clunky. I think exactly the word I was on, Tetris.
But being a coder, it's actually, the technology is actually very good. Although theoretically it's not great, because you can just set up another server with the same icon and anyone can just con your users into connecting their wallet and you can just take all their money. Apart from that, the way that Discord works is actually very good. The way you can boost servers, the way you can just have a telephone call, a voice-only group, the way you can have as many administrative levels as you want. The way you can, I can just send you a Discord link, right? Discord.gg/ I can buy a custom URL like Matt Hookins or whatever, invite people there. Everybody can start talking. You share pictures. It's like WhatsApp 2.0. I don't know if you use 0.0, but it's like a much better version of WhatsApp that's open and public. But there's all these cool things. You can add every type of emoji, right? You can add images. You can pay people. You can send micro payments. You can boost a server. You can buy all these extra features. So it is actually really good. But I think it's number one, in the same way MySpace was for sort of, social networking. There'll be the next one and the next one and the next one. But the core question is, outside the boring bit, the technology bit, is can you sustain those communities?
Well, that's the big thing. So that's what we're doing. Like, so we're basically checking in on all these different communities and the people we've kind of befriended in it, and we're just sort of like, how long can you sustain these things? How long can it go on, especially in the bear market? So it's really interesting. So
you're in communication with these.
Yeah. And then we like talk to economists or sociologists or anthropologists and say, look, this is a thing. This is a phenomenon. These things are happening. And I don't think crypto communities are going away anywhere. And I actually think they have a certain amount of value, because if you look at like what the SHIB army can do, if they want to get behind something.
Yeah. Have you seen these alpha groups?
No.
Right. Okay. These are incredible. It's very interesting because it's like you say, you're going into closer to 4chan, you're going into these deep recesses of the internet, right? And that's what fascinates me. I never forget watching one of those documentaries. One of the hackers was called Fiber Optic with a K. I think he's dead now as well. And they would sort of hack into all, and that sort of at the beginning of crypto, it was very specific people knew about it, right? What are you laughing at?
No, this scared me. But what's really dead? I thought is that
a lot of them, yeah. So, but what's super interesting?
Kill me.
These alpha groups, I got into one of them. It's a closed Discord channel. They're normally 3,000 or 4,000 users, and you've got the admin, and you say, look, can you do this? Nothing physical. It's like, can you spread? Can you show? Can you put this out? It's unbelievable, the response that you get back.
Right.
Because it's like an army, and they'll go out whether you want them to post this or post that. They have amazing control. And those alpha groups, you're right, they are in the deep recesses, and they have a lot of pull. Yeah. They can do a lot of things. That's very interesting. And I've seen that.
And they're a certain type of people. Yeah. Like they're great at coding. Yeah. They're great at operating online. They're great at operating like, whatever it is that you need them to do. But then when they sort of get their token to a certain degree of sort of popularity, then there's a flood of people that are coming in, speculators. Yeah. And then when it grows a bit more, then you get the retail flood. And then that's what happened, like the whole SHIB thing.
Yeah.
And there's something in that. Like, and where it actually comes from, as you were saying, is these alpha groups, are these kind of marginal groups in 4chan and places like that. Yeah. And it's weird to see how it evolves from there to become an entity.
I forget the name of it because I've not been looking for a while, but there's one where there's 1,000 users, closed. There can never be 1,001, and you buy the NFT, and that gives you access into Discord. So you connect your wallet. You can only enter the Discord if you have that NFT. It's $100,000, right? So it's 50 Ethereum. Do you know the one I mean? Is it called the game?
I heard about this one, yeah.
And everybody pays in, and you have to pay $100,000, and then you're in, and then they give you all this information about the NFT market and the crypto market. So the fact that like 1,000 people, are paying $100,000, and they exist, and there's people that are doing it. So I think a documentary on that would be fantastic to get an insight into those people and where
it's and we're looking at everything from the groups that are sort of have a lot of sort of potential, like. And high-end groups, full of like high-end coders and all, right the way to like meme coin groups, that would be on like, but they all have their different values and all have their different kind of vibes coming out of them. Yeah. But it's how they're getting on. Like everything was going well in the bull market, but it's how they're getting on now in this bear market. And some of them are still there, some of them are still going. And I sort of check in on them now and again, and some of them do crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool, because I think, we all hope it's going to come up, right? We're all hopeful, and those communities do still exist. And, every time the market would go down, everybody would get worried, right? Because the newspapers print that Bitcoin's gone down, the media prints it's gone, and everybody, has this fear, right, in the bear market. And then like a week later, it would come back up. It's just that this bear market's longer.
That's why I think the hype runs it, because as soon as the hype builds up, everyone gets excited about it. It's like, okay, let's get back on the bandwagon.
Say, for example, you made a film, right? And it was, and you could create NFTs where you could bet, where you could vote on which character gets cast or whatever. You can also then, for that movie, have a Discord, right? So let's say it becomes a cult movie and everybody just chats about the movie. That's a community.
That's really interesting. So if you look at the power of these meme coin communities, and there's a serious power what they can do, because they're incentivized behind whatever like coin that they are behind.
Yeah.
But if you can connect that to say like a movie and have like a community based on that, then it's a marketing dream. You can imagine all these brands and all looking at this and just going, God, we would die to have that.
Could you apply the same logic to a documentary?
What, like the documentary becomes its own sort of community and becomes its own, has a cryptocurrency.
Which is the perfect documentary for it, isn't it?
It's like a whole like self-aware documentary like that.
What about the documentary within a documentary?
Do we always have to? Yeah, exactly. You want a percentage? Is this
Anything that happens here?
Yeah, it's all right. Okay.
5 ways.
What's your outro thoughts on this, Jay? Being quite, normal and simple-minded.
Well, well, someone who's not come from finance, I wanted to ask the question. Let's say the average person, not has much money, doesn't know what to, me, of course, but doesn't know what to get involved with in terms of like, commodities, shares, whatever it may be, whether it be Bitcoin, and you're saying, that the trend is going to come up. So the question is, what's going to trend? What's best to get involved with right now?
Well, I would. The answer is: do you want money in the short term or the long term?
Long term.
Oh, long term. Well, I should have said short term. Give
me both.
A few exciting tips for you.
XRP.
I think.
Can you say that or not about that?
Well, I don't know, but like, I just sort of thinking if you're going for short term stuff, look at all the blue chip cryptos, the top ones. Look what's all up ahead in the next few months for them. XRP's got like that SEC case. They might win it. They may not win it. That's interesting.
I thought they were going to win it.
I don't know. Like they might win it. They might not win it.
Okay.
But you look down the line, and there could be a low cap crypto out there that maybe has, I don't know, like say $90,000 worth of, in its market cap is about say $90,000 or under. Well, all it takes is a little bit of like spillage into that to make, whatever investment you put in to make that investment like 10x, 20x very quickly.
And that's what a lot of people try and trade these altcoins, these alternative coins, and make money, make those type of returns.
Yeah,
right?
they're the ones that get in early when it's really low cap, and they buy a large portion of it, and then whenever like it starts like different like investments, retail investments starts coming in, and they just watch it, and then they just know when to get out.
I see.
But the thing is about that is there's how many? Is it 28,000 cryptocurrencies?
Something like that.
And there's like more happening every day and coming online. Yeah. So it's like a real. It's probably like I don't do it, but is it worth your time doing that, or worth your time just going down to the bookies?
No, for sure.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's one other thing I'd like to say as well. It's weird on we haven't really touched on what happens in society and everyday life. I know this because I've gone to like want to post something or promote something, whether it be on social media or wherever, and then gone, oh God, someone's died. It's the wrong time to do it. Or, let's just use a much bigger example at the moment, like the war, even the Queen dying, something like that, where those things just knock, societal, like, okay, if we just left COVID and crypto's on a massive high and everyone's promoting it, great. But then, a war comes along or something massive. It changes like, it changes people's appeal and aspect. And even as much as I would say as seasons, like.
So you mean what's going on in the world affects people's focus or their?
I think so. Yeah,
their receptiveness of certain investments.
And I think even seasons and weather, in a weird way, as much as like and I relate that a lot to filming and what the areas that I'm working in terms of like someone going to sit in a cinema all day when it's boiling hot.
Traders in banks. These are things that they try and understand, so they know when to buy in.
Yeah.
So if there is blood on the street, I mean, Warren Buffett said, I buy when there's blood on the street, right? He'll find something that he thinks has got a good long-term return, and then wait for the right time to buy. So actually, what you're describing is something that professional investors always look out for. They look out for those short-term dips on as a point to get into an investment into things that they believe in the long run. In terms of the question that you asked, my strategy would be, putting a little bit of money aside in the top cryptocurrencies, almost like on a standing order basis, £100 a month, something small. So you're in the game. It's something that you don't miss. It's like setting up an account to buy the lottery every week. You spend £5 or £10, and then have your small little fund to buy these alternative coins and maybe hit the jackpot one day. But I wouldn't be putting in a pile of money that would really affect your lifestyle at the moment. That's not the approach that I would take.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I spoke to Max Kaiser recently, in an interview, and he just basically said, look, Bitcoin, he's biggest Bitcoin maximalist in the world. He basically said, look, Bitcoin, if you're going to invest, never ever borrow to invest because it's so volatile. And that's coming from Max Kaiser. So that's it. Like, you never borrow to invest, but absolutely. Like dollar cost averaging, as you say, just put in a little bit every month, and be on the lookout maybe if you want to make sort of like 10, 20 X's on these sort of like small low cap coins. But that's a minefield, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Should we all go casino now?
I think so.
It's not
just get away from the computer, go to the casino.
It's not dissimilar.
Go down to the dog track. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. It's not that dissimilar.
It's more fun actually going to the dog track. But
all right. I think your time is up, Brian.
Okay, my time's up. I can leave now. I've unlocked the door. Right, guys. It was lovely.
All right. That's a wrap.
Yes. Very good. Right.